Swing up the handlebar and insert 2 bolts. Add oil, 30 weight, just like the 1970s. Add gasoline. The choke is the gray lever. The petcock or fuel is the black lever. Ignition switch. Throttle is up near the handlebar. The cinematographer demanded that I make sparks. More sparks. You've seen this a dozen times. Cutting up my cornbread. This is the nice sturdy box that it came in, very heavy cardboard. It's got plastic packing straps. It weighs a little over 200 pounds. Nice sturdy packaging. I didn't feel like pulling the 200-pound plate compactor out of the top of the box. Plastic vapor barrier. The black rails are just for shipping. There's the manual and a few tools. So you cut the 8 tie wraps. Don't forget to save your little picture frames. So you fold up the handlebars and you have to take the 2 bolts out and put them back in. Take a good close look at the bolts so you understand the order of the washers and which way they face. I used a 12 millimeter and 17 millimeter wrenches to do this. You can use a crescent wrench and a pair of pliers if you want. You'll quickly realize the difference between smooth face wrenches and serrated jaw pliers. They're your bolts. Do what you want. Really, this is the only mechanical assembly you're going to do, so that's why I'm spending so much time on it. The handlebars move freely back and forward, so that can be useful in tight corners. We'll move the dolly around to the other side, which shows some controls. That's the choke, and that's the petcock. And there's the throttle. And there's the little yellow oil cap and dipstick. The oil hole is actually very nice. If you overfill it by about an ounce, it'll spill out on the ground. So it keeps you from ever having to overfill the engine. So I highly approve of that. So we'll add our engine oil and check the level. Dipstick. There's the gas filler. The gas is right under the crossbar, but it didn't bother me a bit. Put the gas cap back on. Plate compactor. Meet dirt. Did I mention it weighs 200 pounds? You'll be sliding it around a lot. There is no steering wheel, so get used to the idea of sliding it around. Spark plug wrench included. Spark plug was nice and tight. Again, the gray is the choke lever, the black is the petcock or fuel. This is the first start. So you want to make sure you have the choke, the petcock, the ignition switch, and the throttle. I put it about the middle position, even though they recommend low. So it really takes off as soon as you take the choke off. At full throttle, it'll move forward. At idle, it'll come to a complete stop. I strongly recommend you put up some screed boards or maybe the left and right form you're going to use. Make sure they're level with each other and have the correct slope, 1 inch and 4 feet, or level, whatever you want. This is my railroad pickaxe, which was the only thing that could break new ground. Very, very useful. Your typical round bottom shovel. A hoe, which is nice for moving dirt around, nice lightweight, and it can do a little bit of temporary cutting if you need that. This is my aluminum rake I've had sitting around for 7 years and never ever used. So I finally got to use it, and I used it upside down just as a screed. There's my regular rake, which is kind of nice for taking off the high parts or moving dirt from here to there. As I said, the railroad pickaxe was the only tool I had that could actually break new ground. Slamming a steel pickaxe into a piece of hard dirt is extremely anaerobic. If you continue to do it in succession, you'll quickly run out of oxygen and have to stop. So the trick is to pause for a certain amount of time to get your breathing back. James Fix, in the 1977 The Complete Book of Running, discussed exercise physiology and sports medicine, so we'll take a look at that. In the muscle tissue, the body's most complex biochemical process takes place. Oversimplified, they involve the reaction of glucose with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, water, and mechanical energy. When oxygen is in short supply, as it is to a degree in all running, part of the reaction is anaerobic, without oxygen. Incompletely oxidized compounds such as lactic acid therefore accumulate and an oxygen debt is incurred. In order to complete the breakdown of these compounds, your body must pay back the necessary oxygen. The function of the lungs, heart, blood vessels, and blood is simply to get the oxygen from the air to your 600 odd muscles so this can happen. Muscles are not, of course, single fibers, but vast bundles of fibers packed together with parallel strands of spaghetti. The strands contract because of string-like protein molecules called actin and myosin. Facing each other, actin and myosin behave if they were two combs facing each other with their teeth meshed. As no runner needs to be told, the efforts of running produce enormous quantities of heat. On orders from the hypothalamus, the blood vessels in the skin enlarge in order to dissipate heat. Furthermore, sweat glands secrete their mixtures of fluids and electrolytes, if necessary, in order to induce evaporation and cooling. Scientists began examining muscle fibers for such factors such as enzyme activity and contractile characteristics. Out of this research eventually emerged a discovery of considerable significance. Some muscle fibers, designated slow twitch, contract slowly. Others, designated fast twitch, contract quickly. Virtually every top distance runner they found had more slow twitch than fast twitch. A few years ago, he grew curious about whether the hoary old prohibition against drinking fluids during exercise made sense. Investigation both by him and other researchers showed that it did not. In fact, a failure to ingest fluids, especially in hot, humid weather, could contribute to heat stroke. The energy for running comes from a sugar-like substance called glycogen. Glycogen is stored in the muscle tissue, and during exercise, the supply is gradually used up. When it is gone, no matter how much willpower you have, work must stop. I strongly recommend that you put up at least 2 of the 4 form boards so that you can get them level and the correct slope if you want, 1 inch per 4 feet or whatever you like. I did mine leveled because that's what the manufacturer recommended. You can see that I also put up an extra board in the center so I could have a reasonable distance for a screed, which is really to check depth, not so much to try and move dirt around. Hard dirt doesn't really move very well with a screed. I actually got overambitious and put my boards like a full foot outside where the forms would go, so I would be putting the forms on completely compacted ground. But really running the compactor around the outside once is probably the equivalent and would save a whole bunch of extra unnecessary work. Here I am using the round nose shovel to move dirt from here to there, which I did a lot of. And here's the moment we've all been waiting for, the very first compaction of newly broken ground with the dirt compactor.